Welcome to Behind the DM Screen. It is April of 2026. We are three DMs talking about our games and helping each other out. I am Jeff Greiner. With me, as usual, is Sam Dillon.
Hello.
And also, with us as often as anybody is Ismael Alvarez. Say hi, Ish.
Hello.
And so that's...
I think we should just say that this is a podcast with a rotating set of hosts, because
it's kind of just a rotation of...
Ismael is on this podcast enough that he's basically a regular host. He's not an always the host, right?
Well, he's probably on as many episodes as Mike is, if not more, and right. You, because it's always me. And it's right. Always me, it's always Ish, and then it's either Sam or Mike. So sometimes we get both Sam and Mike, but oftentimes it's not.
Right. So. Yeah.
I got to be like on Saturday Night Live when they say also starring.
Yeah. You're the also starring. So if Sam or Mike ever retires, you'll get promoted to full cast member. So
there you go. Mike only comes on when he wants to argue with me anyway, so it's fine.
Mike's a very busy man with his little empire of gaming.
Little? Oh, that's offensive.
I mean, I don't know. There are bigger empires in gaming. So.
He's no Cobalt Press.
He's no Cobalt Press. I suspect. I don't know, actually. Maybe he is Cobalt Press, but he's a one-man shop, so it's...
Could be, yes.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is Mike Shea and Wolfgang Bauer are the same person?
I'm saying they are equivalently prestigious to have on the show.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, you heard it here first, Wolfgang Bauer.
That's right.
He's leading a double life.
I was imagining it more like Superman, right? Superman and Clark Kent, right? Yeah.
You know, I've hung out with both of them, and I've never hung out with both of them at the same time.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying.
So, we're going to talk about our games. I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock, and Sam, you get to be first.
I do? Wow. Well, I hear that somebody named Jeff Greiner is starting a new something and wants to get lots of advice. So I'm going to try to keep mine really short, because last time I said that, and then I spent the whole time talking about my game.
Right. You're going to keep it short.
I did the normal thing. Yeah. I'm going to keep it short. No. It's going to be actually very quick, partly because my Ardenville game has been, this year we've only met twice, maybe three times, since we took a planned hiatus at halfway through December to halfway through January, and then that extended for like 2 weeks. But then we basically had a planned hiatus for like 6 or 7 weeks, and then we played again, and then a bunch of different things happened with players and whatnot, and so we then didn't play. So we've only had like 3 sessions this year, and we're not getting...
To remind everybody, your Ardenville game, Ardenville is a giant mega dungeon setting.
Ardenville is a huge mega dungeon setting.
Old school in flavor, and you're running it with, was it Castles and Crusades?
No, it's written for Osric, which is the first edition clone, but I'm actually running it at Old School Essentials.
Old School Essentials.
Yeah, and so but it's really, really cool. It's like 5 volumes, right? It's huge. It's like it's like 1,500 pages of material. It's enormous, but it is, every piece of it is interlaced with lore and clues and imagery and lots of different things. And if you have curious players that are actually exploring rather than just, it's not a run in and bash the monsters in the head kind of game. If you do that, you're just going to die, right? It's let's explore and try to find some goodies. And when we get there, it turns out there's a really fancy, mural on the wall, and it has a particular piece of art. And whoops, when we touched that thing, it teleported us somewhere, and now we got to figure out where we are. and hey, look, there's more murals, and that might lead us to gaining some knowledge about where we are and where we could go and what could be found where. And then we find scrolls with historical information on them, and then we go back to town and we talk to the sage and we learn about these two weird ancient books that we found, and stuff like that. So it's a very integrated campaign. It's really meant to be mostly mega dungeon focused, but there is actually a whole setting around it. It's just that's maybe 10% of the materials, and the other 90% is all, the dungeon plus all the history that goes into it, right? And so it's super duper fun, and it's great. And my game group is awesome. They're really into it, and we usually have a weekly game. It's just been, we had some weird scheduling things, and then there were holidays, and then there were this and there's that, and so we're not getting back to that till this coming Sunday. So I don't really have super updates, and I don't remember how far I got when I told you about it last time, so I'm going to abstain from saying anything more about it, other than they did decide on a goal that they want to have, because they went down and talked to the main ruling person in the main town there, and were able to parlay with her. And they thought she was really mean and weird at first, and then she decided that she liked them, and she started to give them information that they needed, and now they're going to use that to go. It's sort of a quid pro quo situation. She needs something to help her position, and she's offering to give them things in return if they find the thing for her. So now it's kind of, so there's a lot of stuff in there like that. It's not just, hey, go into the dungeon and do whatever. It's like there are certain goals and certain things that you can try to find, and you can get information about them, and you can seek out different ways to find the thing. And it's a lot of stuff. Plus it's really old school. So there's a ton of magic items. There's a ton of lore. There's a ton of, there's a lot of fighting, but most of the fighting you can avoid if you're careful. And it's not like a total like death trap dungeon kind of thing. There are some areas of the dungeon where there are traps, but it's really well telegraphed. So you can tell right away when you're entering an area that might be full of traps, and you can figure it out, right? If you're paying attention. Again, it's not meant for the faint of heart. If you're going to just run in and swing your sword, then you're probably everybody's going to die, right? Mm-hmm. It's really fun. And my Star Wars game kind of imploded almost before it got started. I mean, we did play like 13 or 14 sessions of it, and then it just
did somebody fire a photon torpedo into the power core?
No, it's more that it was really fun and interesting, but I started having some scheduling difficulties, because it turns out that my job, for whatever reason, decided to start having a bunch of events on Tuesday nights. And I'm like, okay, but that's my game night. But now I can't say no to certain events, and it started happening more and more. And I'm like, damn it, and so I put the game on hiatus, but then, if you put a game on hiatus for too long, it goes away, especially if you have not been playing with those people for very long. And we'd only had like 13 sessions, and it was an online game. I did not know these people in person. So, like the people in my Arden Vol game, the majority of like half or plus one of them, I've known like for a really long time online, whereas my Star Wars game, it was like I got the people together and none of us knew each other beforehand. So, it's a little easier for those kind of games to implode. So I feel bad about that, but I was also like, well, okay, now what am I going to do? And then some friends decided, we were talking about 4th edition D&D, and I was like, I really want to know if I still like 4th edition D&D. So maybe we should play like a 1-shot or a 2-shot to see if we could if it's as fun as some of the things we remember, and if some of the things that we remember being not as fun are still there. And as you can see, I moved my 4th edition stuff to the shelf closest to me, because now I've started that game, and now we've run like 9 sessions of it. So now I'm running a 4th edition campaign. I'm sort of combining the traditional, the Shadowfell Keep storyline. That's the HPE, it's called the Orcus storyline, right? But yeah. I'm sort of combining that, but I'm combining it with some things of my own making based on the Abyssal Plague that was happening in the area, and trying to lead the players through, or the PCs through, some of that. And so that's a great deal of fun. They are 3rd level by now, but yeah, so we'll see. If I remember it being great in the heroic tier and turning into a huge slog later in the later heroic tier in terms of just how long the combats take.
Yep.
And so I'm not looking forward to that.
I used to have 4-hour sessions of my 4E. I did a 1 to 20 campaign, and in the last half of it, some 4-hour sessions were one combat. That's all we had time for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, with this group of people, they're really enjoying that right now. Like, because we still have, I mean, everybody's kind of learned. A couple of the players have never played it, and 2 of the players played it, but it's been, 12 years since they played it. So, or more. And so they're kind of, we're all treating it as if, they haven't played in forever, right? Or they've never played, basically. So we're treating it like a new experience, and everybody's enjoying it, right? But in 8 months, ask me again, because then it'll be 8 months of weekly games. Are they still enjoying it? And right now, yes, they're still enjoying it. They're at the point in time where they're still getting new and interesting, powers as they level up, and they're using those. Some of them, they're not. They don't even use them like every fight, right? They're still trying to figure out, what's the most optimal way for me to do this? But they're using a lot of teamwork, so they're still surviving really well. It's just a matter of, but they're also really good role players. So anytime we're not in a combat, there's a very rich thing happening too. It's not just, we're going from combat to combat to combat, right? Which that's what was true of my 4th edition game back when 4th edition was the current edition. Yeah. That's how I ran it too. And so we really enjoy that part too. So their characters are really fun, and every time we end up stopping at a town, they meet all kinds of people, and it's just a huge ton of fun, and it's really great. And they keep me on my toes, and they force me to like improv, because they'll follow like the person who's got a fishing pole down to the, down to the lake, to see what they're catching, and talk to them and stuff like that. So, it's really super fun. But just like any game, part of the reason it's fun is the group, right?
Yeah, and then there was a lot of criticism about how 4th edition doesn't do a good job mechanically of supporting role play, and it's all very mechanical and all that. And some of that, like, I get it, and that's true. But also, I find that you don't need a lot of mechanical support to encourage good role play and storytelling.
Right.
And oftentimes when I run into games that do, then the whole game becomes mechanical, not just the combats.
Right.
Because there's all these mechanics around the role play, and it feels more shoehorned and less natural. And it's like, I get you're trying to make a storytelling game, but it's not working. I'd rather you let the rules get out of the way at that point.
Yeah. Most of the time in 4th edition, a skill challenge, there's this idea that it's meant for any time there's something that's more complex than maybe should be more than one role. Like, now we should put a whole skill challenge around it and make it this huge complex thing. And now let's look at the rules for the complexity and how many rolls and how many can they fail and whatever. And the thing is that that's a framework that you don't necessarily have to follow, right? Like you can decide to follow some aspects of it and use sort of the idea of having a framework around your social exploit right there. Yeah. Because sometimes the PCs are talking to an entity or a ruler or some powerful force, whether it's the captain of the guard for a large city, or if it's the leader of a neighboring faction who owns territory, and you need to bargain to be able to be let across it without having a fight. Like that sort of thing. Yeah, you probably want it to be more than one role, because if the player does really great role playing and then they roll a 2, like, that sucks, right? So the framework of the skill challenge is a great thing, because you can use it to say, hey, that 2 doesn't mean that you just fell on your face and completely offended them, because your role playing was really good, right? And so that's kind of how I do it. I don't use necessarily the standard structure of, let's do the skill challenge the exact way it says, because of the whole reason that you're talking about, because it's not always, it's not always needed, right?
The skill challenge, the concept is brilliant, and really added something to the role playing sort of landscape of the time.
Right.
And I see a lot of games using that basic idea extensively. But it did, like, don't get too stuck into the format and the system. Like, glom onto the idea, but don't necessarily worry about the mechanics in the system.
Right. My last thing I want to say is, so the other thing that I'm doing, because I'm a glutton for punishment, is I was talking to a friend of mine and we started talking about Call of Cthulhu. And I'm like, I haven't ran Call of Cthulhu in a really, really long time. And it might really be fun to run Call of Cthulhu. And of course, I can't just be like, yeah, let me run a one shot. I'm like, hey, let me run Masks of Nyarlathotep, which is like a 2 to 3 year campaign, And by the way, let me go grab out all of my books because I have the big companion and I've got, all these and the 7th edition version of the Masks set is like a 2-book set with like 250 pages each and like all these handouts. It's really great. It's super awesome. But I'm like, man, now I've talked myself into another really long campaign. Like, what am I doing? But, that's not really a complaint, right? It's just one of those, okay, well, I guess that's happening. Okay.
Before you said that, just before you talked about Call of Cthulhu, I noticed it was on the shelf over your shoulder behind you. So,
yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So every time when I'm running a game, I move the books from that game to a shelf more close to me, so I don't have to go looking. But there you go. That's me. Always, I feel like I'm always like I'm running 1 or 2 games, and I'm always aspiring for the third one. And when I say aspiring, I mean I'm like planning. I'm reading it, and I'm prepping, and I'm doing whatever, so that when I start it, I'm ready to start it. But I can't. Why can't I pick something small? Why can't I pick something small? Anyway, so that's me.
You should do Shadow of the Demon Lord, because then at least it's finite.
Right? Shadow of the Demon Lord goes 1 to 10.
Yeah. No.
And most of those adventures you can run in like 1 or 2 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. No, it's true. And that's the thing. Like I think to myself, like, I've always been like this though. I've always been a long campaign player.
Yeah.
I rarely run. The only time I ever run one shots is if I am running it like at a convention, right?
Right.
Or like at a game store or something. That's literally the only time I ever run. Even my 4E game was supposed to be a one shot. I knew it was probably going to take us 2 sessions, so I said, who wants to play a 1 or 2 shot, right? And then one of my players was like, oh, he changed the title of the because we have chat about it on Discord. He changed it from what it said 1 or 2 shot 4E D&D. He changed it to 1 or 2 year shot for AT&T. So, they all know me.
Yeah. I've been there. I'm also, I have a hard time with short runs and whatever. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment because it's almost my turn and I am in between campaigns, which is when we like to experiment with some other things.
Yeah.
But before we get to my turn, I want to let people know that if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/thetome show. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help me pay the bills and keep the show going and what have you. I've been looking at some potential new ventures for the for the podcast that maybe I'll talk about in the upcoming episode 400 that we're going to record next week. But some of those might require some subscriptions, and so it's like, or is the podcast making enough money to be able to afford that, or is that going to come out of my pocket? And right now, some of it's would come out of my pocket, so we'll see if how possible those things are. So patreon.com/thetome show. Go help us out if you like what we do. Now it's my turn. Let me make sure to put 15 minutes on the clock to keep myself honest as well. So I am about to start a new campaign, and so I have things I want to talk a little bit about and questions I want to ask. I guess I don't have a lot to talk about. My Phandelver and Below campaign that I've been talking about for the last, year or so, came to its conclusion. I think when the last time we recorded, when Sam was gone, they had gotten to where they were about to fight the Mind Flayer fanatics that had kind of been built up as the villains. They were the ones trying to convert all of the Phandelver region into a new Mind Flayer empire and change everybody there into Mind Flayers, and thus all the Far Realm craziness that was going on. But then after you defeat them and you stop the ritual and you gather up the obelisk pieces or whatever, you gather up all the prisoners and you exit through the briny pool. It's a 6-mile expanse of cerebral fluid that you have to go swimming through and come out the other side to get to the dungeon that looks like a brain in order to get all the way to the rift and get out of the far realm and get back home. And the way the adventure is written,
my favorite part of that adventure, just because of my specialty, you know.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't remember exactly what's in it, but a huge river of cerebrospinal fluid that leads to a brain. That sounds perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. And when you're in the different like lobes of the brain, it affects different, like it gives you certain, like there's one area where, oh, your balance is really good, you cannot be given the prone condition, and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
No, it's a lot of fun. But when they come out of the briny pool and back into the giant brain thing, for the last time with the prisoners and trying to get back to the real world, they are confronted by a refraction of Ilvash. Ilvash is sort of the little godlet that these Mind Flayer fanatics have been worshiping and trying to raise up and whatever. And he shows up and has the line that I really like of, "You've been like tromping through my realm like a surgeon with a hatchet." I like a surgeon with a hatchet,
with a hatchet.
And then you fight him off, and I found a model that I 3D printed, because who's going to happen to, in a random box, get the miniature for the refraction of Ilvash or want to spend the money to get it for the one encounter, the whatever. But I found a model online for it and 3D printed it, and then one of my players is a really good painter, and so he got out the airbrushes and painted it up for me. I sent him reference art without telling him what it was. So that big fight happens, and the real trick with that fight, and I had to brainstorm some things, because the real trick with that fight, if inside the briny pool, that 6 miles brain cerebral fluid or whatever that they swim through, there is some sort of predator sneaking around or whatever, and if they don't make the right rolls, it attacks them, and it's a big purple worm swimming around in there. They made the rolls, and I didn't have them make the rolls on the way out, because it's more fun if I don't, because if you haven't fought it and killed it, it shows up in the final fight. And so you come out of the pool, Ilvash is there between you and the door, and then a purple worm comes out at your exit, and you got no way out.
Nice. Yeah.
The trick is, Ilvash has, like Mind Flayers, has a what is it? The psychic blast or whatever, the mind blast. Right. Except its mind blast isn't a cone; it's everything within a radius of it. It's just a pulse that goes out. There's a 0% chance that the prisoners survive. And that's no fun, right? You went through all of this, and part of your whole goal was to rescue these prisoners from town. And then they all die in the last fight without a chance of survival. That's not okay. Yeah. That's not fun for anybody.
Right.
A couple of my players had some divine things going on. I had a cleric and a paladin and whatever, and I had sort of agents or avatars of those gods sort of show up in a vision as they were going through the briny pool, and offered them some protections, basically sanctuary spells and invisibility spells. Right. And they had a certain number of them, and the number was equivalent to the number of prisoners plus like a couple, so they could hit players with them. But invisibility, sanctuary, they're not going to last very long on players, because then they're going to attack, and it's going to drop.
Right.
But if the prisoners don't do anything stupid, they'll be safe, because unlike Mind Flayers, the psychic blast is not just an area effect. It's within this radius, any creature that Ilvash targets is affected. He can't target them if they're both sanctuary. If they're protected, it wasn't sanctuary. It's non-detection, because then he can't mentally detect them. So non-detection and invisibility, and so they don't get targeted, and they just get the instructions like, get to the corner, get out through the door as soon as you can. And so I thought that was more interesting. I had all the minis for them on the map, so if something happened, if somebody threw a fireball out in the wrong place, whatever, like all of the risks were still there, but it wasn't just an instant death, and they had a chance to survive. And they did, and they got out, and we did the whole epilogue. And normally I do an epilogue of like, okay, so where's your character in a week? Where's your character in a month? Where's your character in a year? But I am playing. All of my campaigns are stringing together into a shared world. There is a meta arc going on, and so the next big thing is going to be happening like 6 months from now.
Right.
So and it, because in the Spelljammer campaign, there's very big obvious things like big things start growing on the planet, and so I can't have them jump a year in advance and be like, oh, what's going on? Nope, that's not it, right?
Right.
We're not taking into account all this other stuff.
Good guess, but wrong.
Right. So
try again.
I only had them go a few months ahead in their epilogue, and some of it was very interesting because, as you may recall, one of the characters has the Eye of Vecna in his face.
Yeah.
So that adds to all sorts of extra complications in what he does. And he was the one raising. He was a bugbear from a goblinoid tribe that plays heavily in Lost Mines of Phandelver. And he'd sort of taken over as their leader, and he was like, let's convert this group from being bandits to more being mercenaries, and that might be in a more acceptable role in society, and we don't have to hide out all the time and whatever. And then he comes back with the Eye of Vecna in his head, and suddenly his alignment has changed and his goals are very different. So,
right. Whoops.
Yeah. Well, makes for a fun story. And it may end up playing out interestingly because the next campaign is Vecna, Eve of Ruin, and I'm going to allow it's that campaign starts at level 12, so I'm going to be like, hey, if you've got a character you've played in another campaign, you want to bring him in. So the guy with the Eye of Vecna might come in being like, hey,
right,
I want the rest,
Right. Yeah. Nice. So you said you're doing a Spelljammer thing.
So Spelljammer is next. We're doing the published campaign for Spelljammer, Light of Xerxes. I'm adding on. There's a free on D&D Beyond adventure that covers the first 3 levels called Spelljammer Academy. That sort of you're off at Spelljammer school and you learn how spelljamming works before all of this happens, because Light of Xerxes starts at level 3 and it actually ends fairly early. It goes from 3 to 8.
Okay.
But we already did session 0 at the end of the last campaign because we had a little bit of extra time after the big boss fight, and I wanted to have a sense of who were they that were going to be playing them, so I can start thinking about that and whatever. So we made characters and did a little mini session 0, and we've got a pretty wild group. I've got a plasmoid paladin. I've got I got somebody who's playing a Warforged artificer, but we're just using the Warforged stats. What she actually is a goldfish who had Awaken cast on her. And somebody in the Spelljammer Academy has built her a mechanical suit. And so she is a psychic goldfish in a mechanical suit, statted as a Warforged. So that'll be fun.
Does the mechanical suit look like a round fishbowl with arms and legs?
It has a big fishbowl in the chest. I used some things to design a 3D model for it, so I can print it.
Nice. I hope they don't visit the Xanathar.
Right. Yeah, and to make it more funny, I asked about everybody's characters' names. And she went through this long, drawn-out name for her character, and then we all realized that the name abbreviates as Gulp. So her fish character is just Gulp. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah, and people are one of the players who never does anything besides human paladin or cleric or whatever. Usually pretty standard races, and usually plays a cleric or a paladin. Did a bard once. He decided, I found a really cool mini. He's also my painter. He's like, I found a really cool mini online, so I'm going to be a Gith, and I'm going to be a Gith monk. Because I found a cool mini for it.
Nice.
So like,
Yeah.
great, that's a class you haven't played before, and it's a wild,
Yep.
it's a wild species to play. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then one player's like, I've always done something crazy. This time, human wizard. I'm just gonna do a human. So everybody's crazy, and he's just a human wizard. So, yeah. So
Nice.
we got a good mix of things. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. So yeah. And in the in between, so one of my players ran a little game of Honey Heist. She's done that a few times for us. Honey Heist I don't know if you're familiar with Honey Heist at all. It's a fun little game. And this time she played very heavily into one of our previous campaigns. We were a bunch of bears, and we were tasked by one of her old PCs to go into the Honey Festival, which was like this big circus festival or whatever. But we were in the Forgotten Realms, so she was kind of building it into the continuity of the campaign that we've already been telling,
Right.
and so we had a good time with that. And then I gave my players a choice. Like, this week, do we want to start the new campaign, or do you want one more sort of filler thing? And the filler thing would be, hey, let's try out the Tomb of Horrors. And they mostly said, let's do the Tomb of Horrors. So I'm going to do the 5th edition conversion of the Tomb of Horrors. The Tomb of Horrors, as you may or may not know, does not have a specific level. It has sort of suggestions of higher level or mid-level or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all. So to make it a little more challenging, they're going to have 10th level characters, which is sort of near the bottom of the acceptable range that I'm seeing. And then, but I'm allowing them 3 characters. So everybody will have 3 characters at 10th level, and we'll play until there aren't any characters left. And we're not going to worry about role playing. We're not going to get into backstory. It's just, hey, let's experience this classic Death Trap dungeon and see how far you can go and see what happens. So we'll see.
Are they aware it's all puzzle? Like,
I mean,
that's the thing. That's the thing, is that Death Trap dungeon is really just, it's all puzzles, and if you don't get the right solution to the puzzle, now the Death Trap happens.
Right. It's not all puzzle, but it's about 90% puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so I've dropped those hints, and I also made, because I wasn't sure everybody would have enough time, I made like 7 pre-gens that they can just grab and pull up and play.
Good. Yeah.
And I tried to make sure there was a good mix of magic items and skills and spells that aren't all just offensive attack spells, and
right.
in that mix. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so we're gonna do that and see if they survive. I did a similar thing with my middle school gaming group that I sponsored, ran, whatever. When we had finished the adventure that we were doing, there was still a few weeks left in the semester, and they wanted to keep meeting and whatever. So I'm like, hey, cool, let's do Tomb of Horrors and just see how far you can get. And we're going to play the whole thing in initiative order. And it's going to be round by round, and I'll draw the whole map out as we go and whatever. And it's just whoever can get the furthest into the dungeon wins. And it was my last year, and I was moving, or I was finishing grad school and then probably moving or whatever. Right. So it's like, and whoever wins gets the stack of extra like players handbooks and stuff and DMGs and all that kind of stuff. They get all the books. Yeah. I got other people. Mike donated a bunch of dice. I got some other companies to donate some things as prizes for them or whatever. And one of the ways they could win those prizes was who gets the furthest in the Tomb of Horrors. So that was a good time. One poor character. I don't know how familiar you are with a tomb. There's 3 entrances, 2 of which are false entrances. Mm-hmm. One of which, if you go in a certain way, like the ceiling collapses behind you and you're trapped there. This poor character spent the entire session trapped in there trying to find ways to get out and just couldn't make it. You know? Yeah. So he got stuck at the entrance and never got it. Yeah, not even the real entrance, and never got through. So, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. The real questions I'm struggling and starting to try to wrap my head around, and it'll come naturally if I don't figure it out now. But I talked about how I have this sort of meta story arc going on, and the idea is the first campaign was Dragon Heist, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and Curse of Strahd, and then a bunch of homebrew-ish stuff for the last the third act of the campaign. The second campaign was Descent into Avernus. The third one was Wild Beyond the Witchlight. The fourth one was Phandelver and Below, and they're all happening in the same setting, the same world. And in each case, there have been hints that are growing less subtle over time that a lot of these issues are being caused by the machinations of Vecna. And that Vecna wanted the dark powers to be, and the Amber Temple to be brought into the world to create chaos and distract the gods with these, uber powerful entities suddenly in the world. And Vecna wanted Zerial to be overthrown in Avernus, and for the top layer of hell to explode in war. And Vecna wanted the hags to trap Zybilna so that the barrier that she protected between the far realm and the planes was weaker, which would then allow craziness like Phandelver and Below to happen because the barrier was weaker.
Right.
And so it's all tied together, and it's all the machination of Vecna because he needs to keep everybody, not just the most powerful heroes, but the gods themselves occupied.
Right.
So he can do these kinds of things. And then I've got this additional campaign that occurred to me, and I talked a little bit on the Discord, for the Tome Show's Discord, that I've got another completely homebrew campaign that I've started outlining a little bit that would explain the obelisks and what the obelisks are and where they come from, and it ties into the spell weavers and the progenitor species that created a lot of the intelligent species of the Forgotten Realms, and all this kind of stuff. And so that's sort of where the larger meta arc of my campaign is at and is going at this point. But I don't have a real strong sense of how the Spelljammer campaign fits into that and where that's going. I've tied some things in the last campaign, like a warlock showed up who was a warlock of a great old one, and the great old one that he sort of got his powers from was Xerxes, a hungry star, which is part of the storyline here. And so I've hinted at this campaign, but I haven't really figured out how this story fits into the larger meta arc. And maybe it doesn't as much, and that's okay too. Maybe there's just crazy things can happen in the universe, and they don't have to necessarily all be Vecna's fault, so. But that's the area where I have some questions, and maybe y'all can speak to.
I feel like the idea of explaining the obelisks, I feel like there was an idea there that they had, and then they just didn't make good on it, right?
No,
they dropped the ball, right?
Chris Perkins has outright said that in a recent interview that there was a plan for the Vecna campaign, and it was going to be sort of a wrapping up and ending of all of the loose threads, and it would explain the obelisk. And then he was gone; he wasn't involved. He wasn't a big part of it.
Yeah.
The thread just kind of got lost, and Eve of Ruin turned into something completely different. And somehow they ended up making a big Vecna campaign that doesn't even feature the eye or the hand at all, as if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like, that the task is adding that stuff back in, I guess. But so can you add an obelisk to the spell? I don't know what the Spelljammer campaign is one that I have not read. I've mostly read. I've almost read every other campaign they've released. I have not read the Spelljammer one.
To give you the 10,000-foot view of the Spelljammer campaign, there's an empire of astral elves, and they run around and literally seed. They put seeds onto these different worlds,
right?
And it's sort of a Galactus situation where it drains these worlds dry and feeds this energy back to their star, Xerxes, because their star is dying, it dies cyclically. Like it's constantly dying, and then they go destroy a world, they recharge their star, it's good for a while, and then they have to go out and do it again later. So it's really just got to stop this empire from destroying your world to save their star.
So could it actually really be that Vecna is actually hijacking a bunch of that power and energy that is supposedly going to the star,
And
and that's part of what.
maybe it's dying off earlier than it was supposed to because of that.
Right. Right, and so now the elves have to get even more aggressive on an even faster timeline than they thought, and that's why it's suddenly becoming an issue for everyone else because that's what they're having to do because Vecna actually is somehow hijacking that energy or life force or whatever it is that star was providing to the elves, and they think it's because the star is dying, but really it's Vecna who's doing it, right?
Sure. That's the beginning. There's a beginning there, right? That puts me on a path.
Yeah.
Vecna's whole thing with Eva Bruin, I don't know if you remember Vecna's whole, like, the way he's getting the power to fuel his ritual to godhood or whatever he's doing there. It's been a minute since I've read it. But it's all powered by secrets. So if I can find some way to turn that into draining using secrets to drain, or learning these secrets or whatever is the thing that's draining. I don't know, but there's something there that I can read more and walk down that path, and that might be something to go with.
And it's possible that someone in that elven civilization wanted more power or wanted something in the Elven Empire, wanted something and couldn't get it, and Vecna offered them, if you help me get access to this, I will provide you with that power, but now that's a big secret. And as well, I'm going to steal all the secrets that you also have and use them against you, right? And I'm going to start stealing the secrets of all the people around you and all the people, and that's part of how he's able to pull there, and then it just ends up being he's just totally sucking all the energy out of their star as well.
I'm tempted. That gives me the idea that I'm tempted if there's somebody in the Elven Empire who was just power hungry. Maybe it wasn't Vecna that spoke to them, but this guy found Vecna, started worshiping Vecna, wanted to get Vecna's attention, drained all the energy out of the star to Vecna, not realizing that that's not what Vecna wants. Oops, I fucked up. And it doesn't even serve the purpose. And now I'm doing all the secret things to, so there's something,
that interests Vecna. That interests Vecna, that now this guy did this thing, right? Vecna doesn't care about the star, but Vecna cares about, you screwed up and keeping all these secrets, and I like that. Now you've got my attention. Let's play with that. No, totally. And the actual sun thing is just it's like a collateral. It's a collateral incident that actually everybody else thinks is the main attraction, but it's really just
for this campaign, it is the main attraction.
But in the larger society, they all think, "Oh my God, the sun dying is the thing we have to deal with," and so do your PCs. But really, in Vecna's mind, in the meta of it, Vecna's like, "I don't care about the sun, but look what I'm getting for this."
To Vecna, no, that can work. Okay, I like that. My time ran out a while ago, so I will wrap up there. I want to let people know that if you want to find the show on social media, you can find me as Squatch, SQUACH, on most social medias. Message me there, and I will notice the notification and pop over and see what's going on. But the best place, if you want to hang out with us, is head over to the Tome Show Discord, which you can get to by messaging me on one of those social medias. Or even better, just email thetomeshow@gmail.com and I will send you the link. And you can come hang out with us on the Discord, because that's where all the cool kids are.
Yep.
Or if you become a patron, it's posted there as well. So
there you go.
Yep. All right. Ismael, we haven't let you get a word in edgewise. Why don't you tell us about your games?
Yeah, I did want to chime in about this whole thing with Monolith and Vecna. If my understanding of the huge meta story that never ended up kind of coalescing was that the Netherese made those monoliths. Is that right?
No.
So that idea comes from the Rime of the Frost Maiden, because at the end of the Rime of the Frost Maiden, if you activate an obelisk that's not really an obelisk, it's actually a mythalar, right? And that actually it takes you back in time to where the where the Netherese are. And so you could play it like, yeah, that was one of the obelisks for real. Like there is an obelisk in there, but like, or you could play it as that's just the Mythalar. The heart of the thing is a Mythalar that lets you go back and see the Netherese and all that stuff. So
that's
it doesn't
kind of
have to
right.
be connected. But I'm just saying like what I'm saying is the way it's written, it's only like a page and a half in the last last 2 pages of the book, and it gives you like 3 different options that you could use for what that actual obelisk is.
Yes.
So,
however, that's still only part of the story. In Rime of the Frost Maiden, in that section, they explicitly say the obelisks were originally created by the Spellweavers, although they just call them the Weavers, but they've historically been the Spellweavers.
Yeah.
They were originally created by the Spellweavers, and then the Netherese copied their magic, and were creating more obelisks for various things like to use in their mythals and what have you. But the original obelisks were created by the Spellweavers, which is what I'm playing into with my 3 campaigns now. I have so many plans. I could run my current outlines for campaigns and not be done for 10 years.
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah.
So my idea was that somewhere in this whole milieu of the elves draining the star is that they actually learn the secret for how to drain the star from the Netherese. Now, how you want to incorporate the monolith into that or not, you can, but then that would lead the players to have to go to maybe like some world where the Netherese tried to colonize from however long ago, to go through the ruins, maybe run into some Phaedrum, and then find the secret of like, this is the actual like mythical function of how the star is drained, so that they can then either reverse it or whatever that would look like. But I just thought it would be neat to tie the Netherese in somehow.
You know what else I could do, because the next campaign where I'm going to explain the obelisk, I don't know that I'm going to tap into the Netherese much at all. I'm going to focus on the progenitors that created the intelligent species, and many of them. And the Spellweavers, in that I could use that as an opportunity to start hinting at that campaign, 2 campaigns from then, and maybe it's not Netherese, but it's the Saruk or the Batri that they have to go and deal with some random survivors of that species that was spell jammed away. Because historically, I mean, if you want to stick to Realms lore and whatever, I don't think Ed Greenwood would get mad at you, but historically the Netherese were much more interested in planar travel than they were spell jamming. It just wasn't their bag. So far as I know, anyway.
So yeah, that was just my 2 cents on that. Could be fun. It sounds like you're already kind of taking some of those concepts and running
some ideas now. Yeah.
But to my 15 minutes, which started like some 5 odd minutes ago,
I paused it for a while.
All good. Because we're all on a tight ship, right? We're just keeping to the schedule
Always.
So the last time I was here, I think I was down to 4 games, the lowest I'd been since COVID started, essentially. Because COVID happened, I think I might have been like 1 or 2 games at that point, maybe not even that. And then I skyrocketed to 11 games a week somehow. And I've been kind of on a roller coaster, but the lowest in recent memory has been the 4 games of about a few weeks ago. So that's changed, as you might have predicted. But I'll kind of give you the weekly run through the pillbox. So Mondays, I got tapped to run a Savage Worlds Rifts campaign. I'd run a pretty extensive one about, I want to say, a year or 2 ago, and concluded that, and it was really fun. I'd actually been recording episodes of that and putting it up as a podcast, which I still haven't finished uploading, but that's a story for another time. But I'm going to run a Rift Savage Worlds campaign on Mondays. We're going to have our Session 0 next Monday, and I'm going to set that one in like the southwest of the Rifts universe, where it's like From Dusk Till Dawn vampires and all kinds of other crazy things. So that's going to be fun.
Rifts was always a setting that intrigued me. I played a little bit of the original one, but not much. But it was sort of, there was this odd time period where Rifts was out and Torg was out, and they were very like they were both like, hey, all these genres exist as different like areas on Earth, sort of thing, and they were kind of doing similar things. In at the time, I lean towards Rifts. Now I do a lot more with Torg, with the newest versions with Torg Eternity. But it's interesting that both of those continue to go strong. That both kind of came out with this similar idea with very different implementations.
Yes, and I've been very curious about Torg from not just from you talking about it, but just from the similarities. Like I remember back in the day, people would make those similarities. They would make the comparisons pretty constantly, and in a weirdly different way. I don't think people ever did the comparison favorably, but like the World of Cinnabar was another one that kind of did the same thing and had a lot of those the kind of kitchen sink feel. Although the very few times that I've like had interactions with Cinnabar, I've been like, wow, this is neat. This is interesting, but not something I would ever pay money for. But yeah, Rifts, I played.
That's like damning with faint praise. You're like, wow, this is neat.
He's trying to say it wasn't good,
never,
but he's being nice.
I would never give you $1 for this. That's why I'm saying it's damning with faint praise.
Yeah, no.
It's not. It's okay.
He doesn't want to be mean.
Give me my dollar back.
He doesn't want to be mean to any of the creators of Cinnabar who might hear this, but he's trying to say he doesn't like it. It's not good.
Yeah.
I actually played Cinnabar one time at my very first gaming convention, and I didn't know what it was until years later. I think I might have even play tested it, and it was fun, but it was one of those games where we were counting things by hundreds for no reason at all, and nothing really made any sense. And it just felt like it was like unfocused fan fiction. And yeah, I mean, we've all experienced that. But yeah, so Rifts, I played a lot of that in the 90s, kind of took a break from it from about 2005 until probably a few years ago when Savage Worlds Rift started coming out. And I'd always said, I love this setting. Not necessarily a huge fan of the system, and I've kind of grown to like the system again, but still with the understanding that much like Shadowrun, which again is another setting that kind of does the kitchen sink thing, is very hard to teach. Like I wouldn't bring anyone new into the Palladium system, but it's fun, and I might run a Palladium system game at some point. But Rift, Savage Worlds, it's so much easier to pick up, and I think it's better for that. So that's Mondays. Tuesdays, I've been running yet another Savage Worlds game, doing the Iron Gods adventure path, and that's been a lot of fun. We're, I want to say, like 8 sessions in so far, and already completely ignoring the whole adventure path. We've just kind of gone on our own thing. I'm using like echoes of what the actual what the actual adventure is, but we've already kind of morphed it into something completely different, and I'm having a blast.
Is there any other way?
I'm saying I think
that's what happens, right?
If you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. But
right.
and I think I love Pathfinder adventure paths for that reason, because I don't know that I've ever run one that adheres to the system. And I'm actually trying to petition, I'll talk about this in a minute, to run a game of Crimson Crown, because I've run it before and I also didn't follow, like I did not color inside of the lines. And so I know that if I run it again, it'll go completely off the rails, and it'll be different even from the first time I ran it, different from the way it's supposed to be run. And so that should be fun. But yeah, the Iron Gods adventure path has been a blast. I think people are really enjoying kind of the, let's call it like the science fiction fantasy of it, where people are running around in a fantasy setting and there's just like little sprinkles of technology. And of course the technology is run as magic because that's kind of the theme of it, but people have been having fun with that. And the big thing in the original adventure and in this one too is that there's a lot of themes of like evil artificial intelligences. And one of my players, who is an English teacher at a high school, who has gotten her students to write things on paper so that they can't just chat GPT it, is like, yeah, anti-AI, like we're going to kill that thing. And like understanding the tongue-in-cheekness of it, right? Like she's like, no, I'm gonna totally play this character as a Luddite because
you could eventually go full paranoia with that campaign.
oh, absolutely, 100%.
Can I ask you a question about? Do you like the Savage Worlds versions of Pathfinder better than the Pathfinder version of Pathfinder?
Kind of. The last few times I've run an adventure path for a not Pathfinder rule set I was using 5e, and so what is it? Rise of the Rune Lords I ran as a 5e game, and I just basically took the book and ran it. I've since bought Curse of the Crimson Throne and the Rise of the Rune Lords Savage Worlds version, and I will say, so my experience running Savage Worlds, I've now got 3 games going, and it was kind of this transition from like, okay, kind of done with 5e. I need something else. Let's find another system that I'm comfortable with. And that was Savage Worlds. And it took me a really long time to not run Savage Worlds like a 5e game, not to run it like a standard, 3.5, whatever Pathfinder. Right. Like run it as its own thing, run it a little bit more cinematically. So it took a little time to get that balance right. So to your question, I don't know if I'm going to like their versions of it, because from the acclamation of like, okay, I'm not going to run this as a fantasy adventure where you roll a d20 and there's all these conventions, I'm not sure if their conversion of the adventure really took that into account, because a lot of people who converted their things to Savage Worlds, I don't think, and this is where I really got stuck, I don't think they really understood it wasn't just like a system conversion, but like really a genre conversion. Right. I've not yet run one of those 2 adventures, and Carry On Crown, I think, just finished their Kickstarter a few months ago. I'm curious to read through that, but I'll get back to you on that. I don't know the answer yet, because I'm not sure if they... Yeah, because
I love Savage Worlds, but it's a very different, like, because I like Pathfinder as well, but it's just such a different... I have not, up to full disclosure, I've not read the Savage Worlds Pathfinder conversions, because I thought to myself, I don't want to play Pathfinder in Savage Worlds. Like when I play Savage Worlds, it's so different that I if I was going to do it, I would just do my own conversion, and I would use the Fantasy Companion and just do whatever, right? I wouldn't like convert, you know what I'm saying? So I never bothered to buy the Pathfinder or Savage Worlds stuff. But I like Savage Worlds as a system. It's really great. I love some of their settings. They're awesome. But like, I was just curious how that was going, because as a somebody who's played a ton of D&D and a ton of different games like you, like I was just curious what your thoughts were on the Savage Worlds versus Pathfinder version.
Yeah, and I'll have a lot more to say, because I've kind of read through some of Rise of the Rune Lords in Savage Worlds to kind of prepare me, because there's not a similar conversion for Iron Gods, not even like a fan one. Sometimes some fans will throw things together, but I'll get back to you, because that's been endlessly fascinating to me too. Like I've been trying to get my hands on people's conversions from traditional fantasy settings into Savage Worlds, and I think some people understand that balance a little better than others. And like I think this has been maybe my most thorough understanding of like, okay, if I'm going to run a fantasy adventure in Savage Worlds, I really have to throw everything out the window and start from scratch, which I've done with this, and I think I've had the most success so far.
Nice. Yeah. So that was Tuesday, right? So what's
Tuesday? Yeah, we're 2 days into the week. Wednesday, I've talked about my one-on-one game with my fiance that was on hiatus for a while. We just had not been running that game, and like just life has gotten in the way, but we've resumed it. And as it happens, the next game is going to be the last one. So it's been like a level 1 to level 20 game of just this kind of like freeform in the Palladium fantasy setting, which the game has actually been going for 3 years. And so at that time, I was running most of my games in the Palladium fantasy setting. So this is kind of that last echo of that, so which is really cool. But that'll be ending soon with a big boss fight, which has been fun, because there's been a lot of lead up. And then that's the question is going to be, what to do next. And to that question of actually, like, we've had a lot of conversations, me and my fiance, and she has been super interested from playing video games of this setting to either play Shadowrun or Cyberpunk. And so I'm guessing that's probably where we'll go. Will be very different in terms of rule set, and so that should be a pretty big learning curve. But for her to be that interested in a setting, I think I'll make it happen however it needs to be. But really happy to go from like some 6 years ago of her having no idea what a role-playing game even was to now being like, no, I want to do this, versus me just suggesting a bunch of things and her picking from them. So that's very exciting.
So what you're saying is, not to get too blue, but you've gotten your fiance into role play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that'll be a nice way to spice up your life.
Absolutely. And you did it with Palladium, which is like, what the hell? You're basically ending all of your Palladium. So somewhere Kevin Siembieta is shedding a single.
That is.
I mean, but who knows? Maybe we'll do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles next, and it'll just.
Oh yeah.
Palladium is an interesting system to introduce somebody to role playing with. I have some game systems I can recommend for that, but that would not have been on the list. So.
No, and for full disclosure, it was just the setting, and I was running it in 5e, so that's something.
It's fine. I like making fun of Palladium. Yeah.
I got done saying that, like, not but 10 minutes ago. It's like I would never introduce someone to the Palladium system, but yeah.
Yeah. It had its time. It had its time and place. Like it was, and for some people, it still is like their favorite system. And it had just like every other game, it had its place, and it you can't knock it. I mean, it's been in constant production forever. So I mean, it obviously has some fans. Yeah. So anyway, not. I think I can give it some praise. It's interesting, but I'm not sure I'd ever spend any money on it.
Yes. I think I would attribute its kind of like recent resurgence in that there were a slew of people who played it in the era before cell phones, before smartphones, really. But there were so many more people, and I mean, smaller by comparison today, of people who are willing to put in the time and effort to just sit and read a book, which is really what that game system requires, even more than TNT, the current edition anyway. And sit and learn and teach and just put up with the fact that you're going to be making horrendous mistakes about rules at the table. And I think that was just the style at the time. But it's now those people who've grown up and are in their mid 40s and older who are willing to like just put up with what it takes to run a game like that. And so much of my, early career of running a lot of D&D type games, of just keeping that information in your head and being the computer that runs the game and letting other people kind of not have that cognitive load. That's how you would run a Palladium system game.
Yeah. So it's been 15 minutes. I assume after 15 minutes that you only play Monday through Wednesday, and that's your whole game.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Just to be clear, I sound like I'm knocking Palladium, but I ran TMNT and Robotech for years, way back in the day. So like, I'm not really knocking it. No, I probably wouldn't try to run it today though, but I'm not. I see it has some value.
So what do you do Thursday?
Thursday, I actually play, and it's I play 1 week, one game, and that's the Daggerheart. We talked a little bit about that at the Daggerheart episode. The other week, which is this week, I play in a 5e game that's like Oriental Adventures inspired, like Rokugan or what have you. Which I know that the naming of that is a little funky, but I didn't know how else to refer to it. But yeah, so I just do like every other week game with 2 games so that we kind of trade off. And that's been fine. Actually, one of my characters died 2 weeks ago. So we did what one does, and it's like, oh, his brother comes in, and it was fine. That was kind of the tenor of that game. That's Thursdays. Not a lot to talk about there. If you want to know more, go listen to the episode about Daggerheart if you're listening to this episode. But Fridays, I kind of gave up on that game. Our attendance was abysmal. those people I told, hey, let's revisit this in April, but I didn't intend to go back and run a game. One of those players had already been kind of thinking about running a game, and he said, hey, I think I might be able to run a game now if you want to come back to the table, and we might be able to start up in May. So that might happen. I'm just seeing what that might all entail, but I'm willing. Like, I think part of my decision to cut things off on Fridays was I didn't want to necessarily plan and make all of these arrangements, show up, and then everything's canceled last minute, which happened more than a few times. But if I'm playing, then
you don't have time for that kind of BS. You got a wedding to prepare for.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that was kind of the reason that I gave, which is not a lie. I'm not. If any of my Friday former players are listening, I don't know if they would be, but it's like, that's true. Like, the work was a bear. The wedding planning is a lot, but yeah, like it's hard to do all of those things, live a life, run, then 5 games of different role playing games, and then like have people cancel last minute. But you know, yeah. I'm also pretty honest with folks on that end of being like, listen, if this just kind of falls apart, it falls apart. Like, no hard feelings on my side, but like, I hope you don't have hard feelings on your side if I just say, hey, I'm kind of done, which I've had to do a few times over the last handful of years. But yeah, I mean, Fridays are kind of a big open spot until we go back to that. Saturdays is my third Savage Worlds game of Eberron. I was going to run it, and I'll explain that in a minute. I was going to run it as a generational game where it was 50 years before the Great War, then 50 years into the Great... Or no, I'm sorry. At the start of the Great War, 100 years ago, 50 years into the Great War, and then like essentially like modern Eberron, 50 years after that. But similarly, I'm kind of thinking I might stop it at the first generation and see how people feel. There's like kind of a malaise that I haven't really been able to get over. I've done a survey to say, hey, what are people liking? What are people not? And like 2 people out of 6 answered it, which is not great. And I'm just trying to figure out like
that's data on its own.
What's that?
I said that's its own data. The fact that only
I mean, yeah, and that's it too. And I would try and remind people to fill out the survey, and then they started reacting with like sarcastic gifs about how incessant I was, and I'm like, okay, cool. Message received. And so probably by the time this episode launches, like I'll have told them like, yo, let's do a different thing after this generation of 100 years ago in Eberron. And we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I've been in the mood of being like, okay, y'all, if you want to keep going, somebody else run, and I'll play in that. And that's kind of been an interesting eye-opener for a lot of reasons. Either nobody else wants to, which is how I stopped playing Adventures League, or running rather, or somebody does, and then they kind of get a new appreciation for what it means to be behind the screen. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, by the time this episode airs and any of those people might be listening to it, this will have already happened, and we'll kind of deal with that as it comes. And then finally getting to Sunday, there's the kiddos that I had run games from middle school all the way up to now they're in college. We haven't played in a really long time. We made it kind of an appointment to play this Sunday. We will continue our Shadow of the Demon Lord game. I think that will make it essentially session 7. And so we'll inch a little bit closer towards the completion of that campaign. I might try and plan to put more in so that we can maybe even finish by session 8, but we'll see. But I mean, I really try and go out of my way to like help these kids out because I've known them for forever. I know that like being in college, they're like a year and a half in, actually almost 2, God. It's so liberating being like living on your own and working and all that. So I know that their schedules are going to be junk for a while, but I also know that, like I didn't put a lot of pressure on them. And finally, one of them was like, we should really finish that campaign. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. And also a separate thing is that I'm running a Demon the Fallen game So 2 Demon games, if you wanted to look at it that way. But Demon the Fallen game, we had to move from Wednesday to Sunday because one of the players had a work schedule upheaval. And that's the World of Darkness game where you're like fallen angels who have been shunted out of the abyss and are trying to live in the modern world. I'm modeling that a little bit where like one of the so-called end of days prophecies is actually coming true, and they have to reckon with that, and injected an idea for a Call of Cthulhu game that did not coalesce, where it's like a biblical apocalypse, but there's like actually old ones behind it, which I thought would be interesting. And I actually pitched that game to my Tuesday group with the Savage Worlds Iron Gods, and it was soundly rejected, which will hurt my feelings a little bit because I got really excited about the premise. So I'm just recycling it now. I mean,
good ideas don't die.
That's right.
Good ideas don't die; they just get recycled somewhere else.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's it. I'm back up to 6 games, and I think that
I wasn't counting, but you had something to say about gaming for every single day of the week. So I don't know that you're actually down to 4 games or 6 games.
Well, I'm playing though. Like I'm playing the Thursdays and Fridays, so
I mean that counts.
That counts. That counts.
So that's
I will say there's not as much prep for sure, but it still counts. Yeah.
Still the cognitive load is worlds different, and I'm trying. I think I had like a weird realization about a year or half a year ago. It's like that I don't like playing, and I'm kind of toughing it out. But I'm appreciating it a little bit more. I'm turning my brain off, and I think that helps.
Yeah. No, yeah. I the few times that my players like pick up and run one shots or whatever in between campaigns. I have to do the same. Like every now and then I'm paying attention and I'm like, oh, I know the struggles that they're going through. Let me do something as a player to make their life a little bit easier or whatever. But the rest of the time, I'm a little bit of a chaos engine. I'm just having fun, because I only get a chance to play like once every year or two. So I'm just going out and having a blast and not taking it too seriously. So
right on.
Yeah.
Well,
cool. But that's
yeah, I think that is all 3 of our games.
And we all stuck to our 15-minute time limit. It was glorious.
Exactly to our 15-minute timer because 3 of us spoke. 15 minutes times 3 equals 1 hour and 14 minutes. Exactly. That's how math works.
It's the new math.
Yeah, so the new math.
I will say that I love your shirt, and it actually is apropos right now.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
For the audience, it says history size, period, repeats itself.
Comma, but yes.
Yes. Oh, it's comma. So I can't see. You're small on the screen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No. In fact, I was speaking about this shirt today to my elementary social studies methods students, which is why when I came home and put on comfy clothes, I'm like, I'm going to put on the history size shirt.
Beautiful.
Yep. So anyway, that's the end of Behind the DM Screen for April of 2026. We have been 3 DMs talking about our games and helping each other out. And that's all we got. So say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.